What's up, YouTube? I'm Corey, and welcome to my channel, Let's Talk with Corey. But before I get into today's reaction video, wherever you are in the world today, I mean wherever you are in the world today, I really do hope you're having a great day. Let me pause and give a shout out to my subscribers. Whether you've been with me since day one or you checking in for the very first time, thank you for your support. And to my followers on Facebook, thank you guys for your support as well. Former top prosecutor of Baltimore, Marilyn Mosby, has been convicted of mortgage fraud. But who is Marilyn Mosby? And for the great people of Baltimore and the great citizens of Baltimore, you guys have always been exposed to this story for a while. But for those of us on social media who do not live in Baltimore, may not be familiar with the story, and I'm going to bring it to you. But let's find out who she is first. So I'm going to read an article from AMAC Newsline and then also NBC.com, and also going to show a news. Okay, guys, so just follow along with me. And this is going to start with, who is Marilyn Mosby? It says, Marilyn Mosby, the rise and fall of a radical district attorney. Baltimore residents, weary of years of escalating violent crime and a record homicide rate, got some welcome news earlier this summer when Marilyn Mosby, the city's far-left state's attorney, was defeated in the Democrat primary by Ivan Bates, a defense attorney who, while decidedly not a conservative, had pledged to reverse some of Mosby's more controversial policies. As Mosby finishes out her final months in office and faces federal charges for fraud and perjury, her tenure provides a lesson in how the left-wing movement to reimagine policing and the criminal justice system has destroyed many great American cities. In 2015, Mosby took office as the youngest district attorney presiding over a major U.S. city at just 34 years old. Wow. Early on, things were promising, and she appeared committed to upholding law and order. Wow, you kind of, everything seemed like it was starting off on the right foot early on. But something changed, right, guys? It says Mosby aggressively pushed for legislation that would make it easier to jail serial offenders and reestablish community liaison positions, promising to keep residents up to date about crimes committed in their communities. Just months into her tenure, she has successfully led to convictions of several high-profile, repeat violent offenders. That would all change with the death of Freddie Gray in police custody on April 19th, 2015, a year after left-wing attacks on police erupted as a national political issue in the Ferguson riots of 2014. As protests spread across Baltimore, Mosby failed to say anything to quell the violence, instead charging the 6 officers involved with the litany of crimes, the most serious of which was second-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter. Although most observers agreed that further investigation was warranted regarding the conduct of the officers, the charges were resoundingly criticized as unsubstantiated and a sweeping overreach. As a sign of just how abusive and inappropriate Mosby's behavior was, all charges against the officers would later be dropped. And 5 of the 6 later sued Mosby for false arrest, false imprisonment, and defamation. Progressives celebrated Mosby, however, and she became a national hero for the left overnight. But Mosby leaned into her status as a rising star in the budding movement to reimagine prosecution and the criminal justice system itself. In 2019, under the guise of fighting C-19, Mosby announced a moratorium on prosecutions related to marijuana possession, regardless of the quantity or prior criminal record, and said she would seek to vacate nearly 5,000 prior convictions. Mosby then expanded this moratorium on prosecutions to prostitution, minor traffic violations, and most low-level offenses, including trespassing, then with C-19 rescinding in 2021. Mosby dropped the charade, announcing that the prosecution moratorium would be permanent. Unsurprisingly, Baltimore has exploded in a wave of violent crime on Mosby watch. May 2015 alone was the deadliest single month in Baltimore since 1972. Between 2015 and 2021, the city surpassed the 300 homicides every single year. The first 6 months of 2022 saw the most homicides of any 6-month period in the city's history, indicating that things are only getting worse, not better, under her watch. According to a new study released in July, the rise in murders is a direct result of Mosby's policies. The report from Sean Kennedy of the Maryland Public Policy Institute analyzed 110 homicide suspects and found that the overwhelming majority had serious criminal convictions prior to committing homicide, and the plurality of these prior offenses involved firearm convictions. The study argued that if the homicide defendant had received and served their eligible sentences for previous offenses, a majority would have not been free to commit their alleged homicides. The assertions of not just D.A. Mosby, but also dozens of far-left district attorneys who have placed de-incarceration at the center of prosecutorial policy.
The jury handed down its verdict about 30 minutes ago or so. Marilyn Mosby guilty on count 2 in this case, guilty of 1 count of mortgage fraud for lying about the source of $5,000 that she was allegedly gifted at closing. That is what she was found guilty of today. She was standing trial here on 2 counts of mortgage fraud related to 2 purchases of Florida vacation properties, a home in Kissimmee in 2020. The jury found her not guilty of that charge, the charge connected to that home sale. She was, however, found guilty of mortgage fraud related to her purchase of a condominium on the Florida Gulf Coast in February 2021. We're waiting for the prosecution to come out and talk to us possibly. They have yet to leave the federal courthouse. Marilyn Mosby left a few moments ago. She said nothing. One member of her entourage made an obscene gesture when we asked for comment. Other than that, we got no comment from Marilyn Mosby or her team. We also got no comment from Marilyn Mosby's lead defense attorney, Jim Wida. He's represented her at this trial as well as her first trial, which was a perjury trial. That was back in November, and that federal jury convicted her on both counts of perjury in that case. We do not know any details yet about when sentencing will happen in this case. We know sentencing in the perjury case was set to take place at the conclusion of this case, but Jim Wida, no comment from him or Marilyn Mosby's other 2 federal public defenders on their way out of court today. Again, no comment from Marilyn Mosby herself. One other note here, this trial for this jury stretched across 4 weeks. Jury selection was week 1. The trial itself was 3 weeks, a total of 10 days. The jury got the case just before 5 p.m. last night, came back here at 9:30 this morning, worked as far as we know all day long, and then delivered the verdict shortly after 5:30. Again, the story here from U.S. District Court in Greenbelt tonight, Marilyn Mosby has been found guilty at her second federal criminal trial connected to the same matter. It was separated, the 2 cases separated into 2 trials and moved here to Greenbelt at her request. And in the end, she was convicted on 3 charges across 4 different counts in those
Guys,
2
I'm back.
cases.
Marilyn Mosby, former top prosecutor for Baltimore, convicted of mortgage fraud via NBC.com. Okay, says this is coming in on February 7, 2024. Greenbelt, Maryland. A former top prosecutor for the city of Baltimore was convicted Tuesday on one count of mortgage fraud, concluding the lengthy criminal trial in which Marilyn Mosby testified she unwittingly made false statements on loan applications to buy 2 Florida vacation homes. I said, okay, then she's making some good money. The jury announced a split verdict Tuesday evening after deliberating most of the day, finding Mosby not guilty on a second mortgage fraud charge, the Baltimore Sun reported. She was previously convicted on 2 counts of perjury in a separate criminal trial that took place in November. She hasn't been sentenced in either case yet. The federal criminal charges stem from allegations that Mosby claimed a pandemic-related hardship to make early withdrawals from her retirement account, then used that money for down payments on the Florida properties. Prosecutors allege she repeatedly lied on the mortgage applications. Mosby served 2 terms as state's attorney for Baltimore, earning a national profile for her progressive policies and several high-profile decisions. She brought charges against the police officers involved in the 2015 death of Freddie Gray, which I covered in the last article, which ignited widespread protests against police brutality. None of those officers were convicted. Mosby lost re-election in 2022 after being indicted by a federal grand jury. Her mortgage fraud trial, which began in mid-January, was moved from Baltimore to Greenbelt, Maryland, over concerns potential jurors may have been biased by extensive media coverage of the case. Again, guys, I always say that's why my channel is very important, is because I will bring the news to you wherever you live, where you may not be familiar with what's going on, especially in places like Baltimore. It says that the trial included emotional testimony from both Mosby and her ex-husband, Baltimore City Council President Nick Mosby, who said he lied to her about their outstanding federal tax debt because he was embarrassed. Marilyn Mosby testified that she didn't intentionally make any false statements and signed the loan applications in good faith. Having never bought property before, she said she trusted real estate professionals and her husband during a stressful time. There we go. I see a little bit of finger pointing going on, right? Oh, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. And so, hey, you know what? I trusted, real estate professionals and my ex-husband. Okay? Mosby's failure to disclose that debt on her loan application contributed to the mortgage fraud charges, according to prosecutors. Prosecutors also alleged that she lied about receiving a $5,000 gift from her then husband, which allowed her to secure a lower interest rate. The purported gift, which prosecutors traced back to her own account, is what led to her conviction, according to the Baltimore Sun. In order to obtain a conviction, prosecutors had to prove she knowingly made a false statement that affected the mortgage application process. Once a political power couple in Baltimore, the Mosbys met in college and have 2 daughters together. They divorced in November. Yeah, I bet they did, right? In the perjury case, a different jury found Mosby lied about suffering financial losses so she could withdraw money from her retirement account. Her defense initially condemned the prosecution as rooted in political or racial animus, but a judge later found those assertions invalid. During her tenure as state's attorney, Mosby receives national recognition for her policies, including a decision to stop prosecuting certain low-level crimes, as I already covered. Anybody who has an opinion on how someone who has been put in place to fight crime end up being criminal themselves. Hey, there was a lot to unbox, but guys, what's your thoughts about the Marilyn Mosby, this former top prosecutor of Baltimore, who obviously, got caught, committed fraud? And what's your thoughts about it, guys? And leave a comment. And as always, thanks for stopping by on the pull-up. Let's talk with Corey. Let's talk with Corey out.